Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. I'm Andrew Sumner, and here is my special guest for today's episode, the one and only Chris Shepherd. How are you, mate?
I'm all right. I'm really good. Yeah, I'm really great.
It's great to see. It is great to see you. Now, you've had a career that I've really admired over the years as a multi-award winning filmmaker and animator, and you've got so many creative strings to your bow. Been involved with so many things that I've loved, going right back to Nathan Barley and Big Train and all those shows. Yeah, and you made that wonderful short film a couple of years ago with Gene Boat, which I always really loved.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that was a fantastic piece of work, mate. But you're here to talk to me about something that myself and my colleagues at Titan Comics are very, very proud to be publishing, which is your new graphic novel, Anfield Road.
yeah. Yeah, well,
So,
I'm really excited. Yeah, it's really amazing. As you say, I've done a lot of different things, and I've sort of worked a lot on TV, done a lot of comedy, and um, and it is really exciting to shift to a different arena with the book. It's that the book is something completely different, and so it's a real honor for me.
so, what before we get into the genesis of it, what I know the concept obviously, and it's very close to my heart for reasons we'll discuss. But what can you tell me about the book, where it's set, where it takes place, what it's about?
Yeah, well, the book Anfield Road is set in 1989 in Liverpool, and it's a sort of a coming of age story about Connor Sterling, and he lives with his grandmother Mary, and he's had quite I suppose quite a fractious sort of like upbringing, and he falls in love with a girl, but he sort of I suppose he's scared to take her home, and he wants to Connor wants to go to college and become an artist, but he's sort of he's trapped with the dilemma of his grandmother because she's quite, I suppose in a way she's quite domineering, or she's controlling, and he wants to bust free. Basically he wants to bust free of the city, but he's got obligations.
Yeah, yeah, and what I thought, as somebody who like grew up in Merseyside, in the Merseyside of the 60s and 70s, I thought you've just created this really wonderful snapshot of the city at a certain period of time, with a certain set of things going on. Yeah, and how long did it take you to put the project together?
Yeah, well, it was interesting because I'd written I'd done quite a lot of short films, and then I've written about three feature films, got into development with different people I filmed for and people like that. But it was so hard to get a film away. It's so difficult, and they sort of just didn't happen. And then I had the script of Anfield Road, like it's a feature script originally, and I suppose there was aspects to it that were harder to sell because it's set in the eighties, makes it more expensive, so etc. etc. But then what happened was that I was trying to do some other projects. It sort of didn't happen, and then I sort of thought, well, what I can draw. Why don't I just draw it? Why don't I thought, well, no, it's like a different skill set, I suppose. So I just started drawing it, and I started it like 8 years, or 8 or 9 years originally, away from the beginning, and I drew about 20, I don't know, I must remember 10 pages and tried to sell it, but then I couldn't. I think people looked at the script and thought, well, that's going to take him 20 years. And so they just kept away from me. And then, but then what happened was when lockdown happened, then that was perfect then because there was this, I was at home all the time. And I just started drawing and drawing and drawing. And I suppose I was a bit scared to draw at first because um, I like working as a collaborator with other people with films. But I sort of the more I drew, the more I got into it. I sort of just really, and by the end, I was really into drawing.
Yeah.
And so I think to draw the book properly, I think it took, I think that was like 4 years, 3 or 4 years, to get to the ending. But I loved it. I loved drawing. I tried to draw things as accurate as I could. So I'd, draw, and I'd sometimes pick on buildings that but are gone, and
Yeah.
things that didn't exist anymore. Old buses, stuff like that. So yeah, yeah, it was great fun. There's all kinds of jokes in there, so I don't know whether anybody will spot them, but yeah, there's all yeah. So it's yeah, so that was it. Was about 4 years, yeah, and then I was lucky, I drew most of it, and then I was just so lucky, that with Titan getting behind it, it's amazing.
Oh yeah, our acquisitions editor, Duncan Baisley, who I've known
Yeah,
for a long time, he was a massive champion, and and because of my Merseyside roots, he was like, I wanted to look at this. What do you think?" And I was like, "This is amazing. This is absolutely brilliant." And then I started boring him to death by going, "Do you see this place here? This is it." Because what's beautiful about it, it works on for me. It's such a lovely, evocative piece of work that works on so many levels, the emotional reality of the relationships of your lead characters,
yeah,
but
yeah,
the your use of color, which I'll come back to in a second, but
yeah, yeah,
also that detail you present for the Liverpool of that era. I mean, there's one shot that's going down London Road and like TJ Hughes is on your
yeah,
right,
yeah,
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 and it's like, man, that's where my dad worked. And I was like,
yeah.
and I think we were talking about this the other day. You almost get far enough down, almost, to get to where the Odeon was and where the Chapter One comic shop was.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah.
not quite. But it was just so lovely for me to see all of that. But the snapshot of it as it was then, it must have been so rewarding just to be able to delve into your memory or into references like that and draw that stuff.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? I really did enjoy it. I think when I drew, there's a scene, there's a bit at the end of the book, near the end, and let's just see if we can find that, like this, all this sequence I love drawing.
Yes, that was amazing.
But the concourse, cafe, and Las Vegas, the
Yeah,
slot, and yeah, I felt like in a way, um, I felt like it. I suppose yeah, when I first did animation, when I went to art college, I always felt like a lot of animation was quite like sort of middle class in a way. Do you know what I mean? And
yes,
everybody was
yeah,
doing poetry and all, and about beautiful things and horses and things, which is cool. Nothing wrong with that, obviously. And but for me, I always like the beauty, especially nostalgic about like the desolation of the landscape like that.
yeah, right on. Yeah,
And I suppose I'm nostalgic about that, but I always like it's like Shane Meadows' his films,
yeah,
I always think when Shane Meadows always shows like the real world, and there's something beautiful about it. And I suppose in the way I think, well, why can't uh Liverpool AC scenes be beautiful, and that was something for me, to just to capture it, the
yeah,
beauty of the sun rising over
yeah,
the piggeries and Everton,
yes,
and it's such a beautiful place, Liverpool. It's got such amazing light,
yeah.
and because of the Mersey reflects the light, it's
I
bright and
agree. I agree. But it is so unique. I mean, I'm a massive Liverpool evangelist. I'm constantly uh, getting my London mates to visit and showing them, you got to see this, got to see that,
well,
because
it
it's
is
not
the
like
best
anywhere
city.
else. It
It is
is.
the
It
it
is.
is the best city in the UK because
Yeah,
you've got great food, you've got restaurants,
amazing.
you've got like art galleries and gigs and the best pubs. I
Yeah,
mean, my only regret with the book was I told the story and I stuck to the story, But at times I think, oh, I wish I'd put the fill in it. Why didn't I put the fill in it? Or
Yeah.
the futurist isn't really in it, or
Yeah.
the
That's what,
crack,
yeah,
or
we talked about that the other day, didn't we? The futurist, man. Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah, I tell you what, this isn't even talking about the book. You know what I loved? It's the fact that you also had seen 2001 at the Futurist, which
yeah,
is,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
where I
yeah,
saw it. Yeah. But which, by the way, if you're not from Liverpool, you're not from Merseyside, the Futurist is a classic Liverpool cinema, iconic cinema in Liverpool that
yeah.
just had an energy and life of its own.
It had sense around in there, so
Yeah.
it had this big beefy sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of times when I went to the cinema, like when I saw 2001: A Space Odyssey and The Futurist, that sort of changed my life. I saw One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in Studio 123.
Yes. Right on.
I went in and I came out a different person, and you
Yeah.
see these iconic movies, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it?
Well, the Studio 123 used to do these great late night double bills on a Friday night. And, in that, in what was for me the kind of in the late 70s, the pre-video era, you could go to the Studio 123 and I saw a double of, say, Dirty Harry and Freebie
Yeah,
and the Bean, and you go
yeah,
and see all these like 70s action films that were very difficult, or 70s dramas that were very difficult to see, and they'd be
yeah,
really
yeah, yeah,
worn out prints, right? They wouldn't be in great
yeah,
shape,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
it was just so it's so much fun.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean I think the thing is, for me, reading Anfield Road is triggers a very specific set of memories. But I think the beauty of the book and the beauty of what you've achieved is you don't have to have those memories and you don't have to be accessing that. There's a
yeah, yeah,
universality to the story that you're telling.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think the way in which you've created those Liverpool vistas
Hmm.
and the your color palette, there's this kind of dark sepia almost that you use throughout the book.
Yeah.
That I think, where did that come from?
Well, it's interesting because when originally I thought I was going to self-publish the book because I just thought, well, nobody will probably want this. You know what I mean? I was just drawing it, and so I met. It was a friend who said, "Oh, you should do it in black and white." So I drew the entire book actually in black and white. It's not in color.
Wow.
And then what I did was I drew the whole thing, and then I got near the end. But then I started to look at other books and could see how they use color. And then I thought, well, then I started to experiment because the gutters in the book, uh the spaces between the
Yes.
captions, originally they were black. Like, and so what I did was I used let's see if we can find a bit. This bit, yeah. This bit, this sequence here, for example, in the pub, you know, uh, I started to. I thought, well, I'll make this. I realized that I could make it more claustrophobic, like
Yeah.
being a space he didn't really want to be in. So I'd keep the borders down, but if I wanted it to be sort of more fresh looking, like if you're outside, I realized that I could make it white, and I could change the mood. And I did this film for Channel 4 in 1997 called The Broken Jaw, and it was about some old people who get booted out of a pub, and they sort of and the management's changed and they can't deal with it, and it's all photo montage, the actual with animated characters on top. But what I did was I realized that I could change the color palette scene for scene, including the colors of the characters. So it could be blue, could be sepia, could be this, could be that, and then you would buy into it.
Yeah.
The idea of like the characters are the same color all the way through. So then when I started to experiment with color on this, I then realized, oh yeah, it could be sepia there, then sort of blue, So it changes, and it changes the mood, adds a different dimension to it. And I think what was interesting was, I think it was like I did a pass on it for the story. I did the drawing, but then it gave me another opportunity when I did the color pass then
Yeah,
to sort of enhance everything. Like the cover, for example, the cover is like probably one of the last things I drew for the book, and it's the most colorful part of the book, and I think just my sense of color design got better and better,
yeah.
and yeah, it's really exciting. But the color helps pick out the imagery much better than it being black and white, but it looks flat. You
Oh,
know what I mean?
yeah, there can be no doubt. I mean, of course, the classic process with classic comic books is that is how you do it. It's the pencils, then it's the inks,
Yeah,
then you
yeah,
layer
yeah,
the colors over at the end. And
yeah,
that
yeah.
is the
So
process. So what I'm fascinated about is this is such an assured comic book debut, assured graphic novel debut that it feels like you just, as an artist, you just instinctively understood right out of the box all the rules of comic books because it's such an assured piece of work. But there's a level of comic book artistry within your graphic novel, within Anfield Road, that it usually you find when people have been doing this for 15 years, 20 years straight, and they've created 10, 15 books. For this to be your first book, I really found that amazing.
well, I suppose yeah, it's I think we're doing animation. Obviously, I've
Yeah,
done a lot of different films, but I'd always do like I've always been a person. I remember like Len Lai, the animator, said he'd always try to jump out of different holes in the ground all the time, like be different. And I've always tried to be different with each film I did. Sometimes I do a lot, like Bad Night for the Blues
yeah,
with Gene Bose. It's completely live action, no animation whatsoever. And other films are completely. Like I did one with David Shrigley that was black and white, and that it was and 2D drawing. And then I do something like Dad's Dead, which is all like like mixed media. So I tend to do different things. But I think with this, I think I was always really into I used to go to Paris because I've made a few films for Arte
yeah,
France. And I'd always go to the comic book shops, and I really loved Jacques Tardy.
yeah, yeah,
And
right on.
he's not really like in the UK. Nobody really used to know who he was. And I used to get the books back and like the Nesta books,
Yeah,
the detective ones.
of course.
And I always thought, God, I wish I could draw. I'd love to be able to do that. That to me was just brilliant. And I think in a way, I tried in my own way to sort of emulate that a bit, that
Yeah,
economic, the beautiful drawing. I'm nowhere near as good a drawer as he is, but so yeah, so that was part of the inspiration as well. I think that was there. It's weird. I think the thing is as well with being a filmmaker and an actor, sorry, a filmmaker and a director, especially doing animation, is I am like an actor.
yeah,
So when I tell I always think of the story first, then the style second. And I think about what style tells the story. I'm not like you get a lot of animation people or animation or all filmmakers live action. They have their style all the time, and it's just a theme, playing on that theme. But I always try to be different, and but I feel like with Anfield Road, it's like the culmination of lots of things that I think, in a way, my drawing just got better and better the more I drew. And I think I found a style, I found something there. I went somewhere else with it. And
yeah,
sometimes I just surprise myself, I'd be drawing and it's like it was like when is it who said that you have to do 100,000 hours on something before you become proficient at it. I can't remember. Somebody said
yeah.
anyway.
I have
But
heard that, but
and,
I
and,
can't.
and the book was like that. I just drew and drew every day, and I just did mountains of drawing.
I
It's
feel it's reading it. It's an experience of, I think you feel the alchemy of your creativity, and I think what you said is interesting. You know, you're accessing your filmmaker's eye, and of course, comic books and film have they fuel each other to a great degree. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess that I think it's a very visually powerful piece of work, and there's something that I found. I started reading and I couldn't stop. I had to power through the whole thing. I didn't read it in segments. I read it all in one go.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. There's different facets to it, I think, in the sense that because it's the way I made it as well. I wrote a screenplay, and then I used that as the backbone, and then I broke it into sequences like you would an animation film, so that each like chapters there was 60, and then what I did was I started by trying to rough it all out, but then I stopped because I just thought. I felt like by the time I'd roughed it out, I would have lost the will to live somehow. And or I would have thought, oh my God, how am I ever going to draw this? So then I did it by sequences. So I remembered one time I met the writer Tony Grisoni, and he did the Brothers of the Head and just sorts of things with Terry Gilliam, and he said he said when he writes he likes to um think of it as being like a book, so he sees it for the first time himself. And then so then I did that with the sequences. I'd just rough one out or two, and then start drawing them, and then I just go like that. So even at the end of the book, when I got near the end, when I was finishing drawing, like the final sequences, I'd never roughed out. So I didn't know. It was like I was always going to discover something when I did
Yes.
it.
Okay. That's
Do you know
so
what I mean?
interesting. Yeah.
So it wasn't like because otherwise I could if I roughed it all out, it would have been just
You'd be
uh,
plodding through the motions to get there. But this way it was like an adventure in and of itself.
yeah. But it's like a bit like when you say like if you shoot a live action film, you'll work with the actors and you will like explore the character or the scene or block it out. But the book was the same, but it was just like in ultra slow motion. Like I'd still
Yeah.
go to bed and be thinking. God, I should do that. I'd have revelations. Then no, I mean the script it was always the same, but it was like how I played the script, you
Yeah.
know. So, and then I had another thing where I do two sequences, and then if I was doing a page with people talking, I started to it was too much. Good pages where they're just talking and go, but then I go and do a landscape to try and break it up. You're always trying to like discover something new. And I
Yeah.
found that when I worked like that, I got really excited about drawing it because I couldn't wait to. Because by the time I'd done the landscape, I felt good, and then I thought, "Oh, I'll go back to the room now, start drawing them talking," and I could do it. It's funny, isn't it? So it was like, yeah, that's how I kept it like fresh in a way.
I just, mate, it's so interesting hearing you talk about it. It's a fantastic piece of work,
Oh,
and
thanks.
we're straight up so proud to be publishing it, as you know. But I'm really pleased for you. I mean, you're just about to. By the way, for everybody watching this, you can order Anfield Road from the links attached to this conversation from forbiddenplanet.com, and you're just about the book publishes on October the 29th, and
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
about to
yeah,
embark on a promotional tour for it. And one of the things that you'll be doing is a signing at Forbidden Planet Liverpool
yeah, yeah,
on
yeah.
the
Which would be
street
cool, wouldn't it? Yeah, yeah.
next door to Maggie Mays, so you can have a plate
Get
of
a pat.
scouse. And
Yeah,
then yeah, and then
yeah.
go, then you can get your Anfield Road signed by Chris. So you're going to be doing all that, and you've got some other great things in the pipeline as well, haven't you?
Yeah, well, there's two I'm really excited about. One is Essential St. Martin's. I've got Helen Sarvanovich who writes Motherlands. We're going to be
Yeah,
talking about the book and Liverpool. But I think the thing I'm most proud of, which I think is fab, is I run a film night called Bar Shorts
yeah.
in the Garden Cinema.
Oh, I
So
love the Garden Cinema. What an
yeah,
amazing
yeah, yeah.
place.
So we're gonna screen Our Day Out by Willie
Yeah,
Russell,
amazing,
which
amazing.
you know,
Masterpiece.
I remembered watching that when it came out, and I remember everybody in school was like, um, you know, couldn't believe it. I think it's when the other thing is when you see your world on the screen. I think because we were in Liverpool in the 70s and 80s, maybe uh, it was a surprise to see it on TV and film.
Yeah,
And our day out was just it was yeah, such a great piece of TV. But then what we've got is Alexei Sale. Really, it's really fab. We're gonna be in conversation with Alexei. We're just gonna be talking about Anfield and Liverpool and the eighties. So
fantastic.
that's really like the you know it's a great compliment for the book. You
Yeah,
know, we can
yeah.
really have a great. It should be really funny.
That'll be fantastic. And he, of course, is a highly accomplished author himself. You know,
Yeah,
multi-hyphenated.
yeah, yeah. Well, he's from the other side of Anfield, but you know, on off Oakfield Road, not Oakfield Road. Is it Walton Beck, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
By the Sandon man there. He's and yeah. No, I was really yeah. He did a forward for the book, and I was really touched that he did that because I love his stuff. I love his. He is such a good writer. I mean, he's
Oh, he really
incredible.
is. Yeah, he's a massive talent, and it says it all that he loves Anfield Road as much as he does.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and
it's nice.
it's lovely to speak to you, Chris. It's great talking about your really fascinating career. It was great talking about Liverpool always, but it's lovely talking about this book, which is
Oh,
a
thanks.
fantastic piece of work. Congratulations on it, and anybody who gets hold of a copy of Anfield Road, you will not be disappointed. It's great comics, amazing. And
Oh,
thanks for
thanks.
joining me today, mate.
It's a pleasure, total pleasure.
Well, you take care, Chris. I will see you again soon.
See you
Take care,
soon.
brother. Bye bye. If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.